Hello, my name is Lindsay Jane, and welcome to the Solarpunk stream. Today we are going to be getting into part 6 of my playthrough of Gilded Shadows. Today it is like 30 degrees Celsius here and ridiculously warm, so being inside is a bit of a nice reprieve. And let's just get straight into it. So we're on to chapter 13 of Ari's Route, into the Labyrinth. Hey everyone, come on in. Sorry Magnus isn't here at the moment. He asked me to lead this thing today. I hope you all don't mind. Ari set a hand at the small of my back as we filed in Magnus's office behind Van and Caleb. I had to resist looking back and smiling. We hadn't told anyone about the developments in our relationship. We hadn't even discussed telling others. Yesterday had been busy, to say the least. Well, for him, I'd gotten the day off. We'd seen each other briefly in the evening, but he was tired and gone to his place to get some much-needed sleep. I was supposed to have today off as well, doctor's orders, but I'd gotten a notification of a high-priority meeting regardless. So here I was. It was just the 8 of us from the guard, or 7 of us, since Magnus was absent. So what's going on? Finally, an update on everything, I assume. Seemed usual for these meetings. Everyone just sort of took up whatever space was available around the office. I took one of the chairs in front of Magnus's desk while Van took his chair and casually spun around while she listened. Typical Van. Yeah, it's a big one. We'll be filling in the rest of the higher-ranked teams later on. The council's been going nuts all morning, and Maggie's buried so deep in the nanosystem right now, he can't even drag himself out to be here. Ari casually leaned against the side of my chair and folded his arms across over his chest, all business as usual. What exactly is going on, Mara? Well, to start, I think you're all aware of the scanning incident from the day before. The issue with some of us having undergone some sort of brain scan while we were out in the city? That's the one. Did they find the culprits? We didn't catch them yet, but we have a lead. Actually, you're the one who helped put us on the right track with your report. The others glanced my way. Gina? Who the hell is that? She was one of the scientists from Trent's group, the team of 3 visiting from Surrey. She went missing during the incident with the explosions. I thought there might be something suspicious about it based on the information I had from Trent, so I mentioned it in my report. Was she also the one responsible for the attempted hack of our system files then? I believe so, yes. Hang on, don't jump ahead. What exactly have we learned? Well, part of the issue with the scans, what set you on alert, is that it's usually impossible to perform that precise a scan at a distance, right? But if anyone tried to scan any of us from up close, we'd have noticed. So how anyone scanned anyone else was a mystery. Presumably then, some new information has come to light pointing to this Gina woman. In her report, Morgan mentioned having spoken to Trent in the infirmary about the bombing incident. That's right. They were sent back here and received treatment in our medical ward. I had a brief conversation with him then. You mentioned in your report that Trent said Gina was often at odds with the rest of the team because she, being from New Albion, was less sympathetic to the bid for independence and the general plight of the colonists. That's right. He mentioned it for the first time that day. And now she's conveniently missing after having potentially fled the vicinity of an explosion moments before it happened. That's what stood out to me. It's almost as if she had prior knowledge. She was also the one who suggested the 3 of them go sightseeing that morning. It felt like a connection, but it made little sense given the group that took credit for the bombings were supposedly sympathetic to the dissidents. We thought so too. So we decided it was time to have a chat with Matt and Trent to see if we can get more information about her. Interrogating them made sense, all things considered. At this point, Endgame couldn't keep dancing around and trying to avoid stepping on toads, could they? During the interrogation, it came to light that the same group of labs looking to reproducing certain types of F-class psi waves via technology, also working on a prototype long-range bioscanner. It would be something that would allow them to locate people trapped in collapsed mines and get a precise readout of their medical condition. But it could also allow for long-distance scans of brainwaves. Matt said they weren't aware of a functioning prototype, but it seems like a pretty convenient coincidence, doesn't it? What's more, that entire branch of labs is owned, funded, and operated by New Albion and the Triad. But doesn't this mean we're saying the Triad is behind the attacks on Brazil? And trying to pin it on the Cyri dissidents. An incident like this would really hurt their cause. Meanwhile, Gina took the opportunity of agents being all over the city to scan them from a distance without being detected. With this theory, aren't we also linking the Triad to the Esper experiments rather than the Cyri dissidents? That's right. But the suspicious Espers they caught were all working on the side of the dissidents with the rebellion. They could have been plants, people put there by New Albion to attract our attention so we'd step into the conflict on the side of the Triad. It's a hell of a setup, but it makes a lot of sense in a lot of ways. The Triad can't afford to lose Cyri. They'd lose their minds, not to mention their damn illegal research facilities. But they know they wouldn't get involved. No, but they know we wouldn't get involved unless they had to, and they wanted to make sure we'd get involved on their side. But we were treading cautiously and moving too slow for their tastes, so they staged an attack on Brazil, making it look like it was a move by the Cyri dissidents, or their supporters. I can't believe the Triad would do something so underhanded. When you think about it, it would have been hard for some disorganized rebellion, or any group of civilian supporters, to arrange such a large-scale attack on Brazil of all places. But the Triad has people in Brazil to monitor Endgame. It wouldn't have been easy for them either, but they are more equipped to do it than anyone else. If that's the case, then this research trip aligning with Cyri conflict was just a coincidence. Most likely. We believe that New Albion really is engaging in illegal Esper research, but probably on the surface. The Cyri lab is just a cover for that. Based on what we've learned from Matt and Trent, we believe the information from the lab was being relayed to another facility here on Arcalis, where the real research was going on. That's what Magnus is looking into right now. Cyri is the perfect place to get a larger pool of Esper test subjects, which the Triad would need access to. They used the guise of legal research to get at it, and we think most of the researchers didn't have any idea what their information was being used for. And if their research ever came to light, they probably were hoping they could cover their tracks and pin it on the colonists. They've clearly developed some type of prototype serum that can somewhat achieve the effect they want and have been using the dissidents, desperate for a win, to test it out. The added benefit is they can frame the dissidents for the whole thing, undermining the colony's bid for independence. But the serum doesn't appear to be perfect since it induces rapid burnout. Gina's goal was probably to get information on more powerful F-class psi waves so they can try to refine the serum's effects. I imagine that after her hack of our system failed, she decided to use the information of the bombing as an opportunity to get the information firsthand. But right now this is all just a theory, right? Well, as of this morning, Trent has also disappeared. What? I was on my feet before I even realized it. How the hell did that happen? You can't tell me there weren't guards stationed outside their rooms. Oh, there were. Whoa, wait. She stopped spinning and stared up at Mara, a look of disbelief on her face. Then how'd he get out? His guard is also missing, so we're assuming he had some inside help. We're running through the rosters right now to figure out if anyone else is unaccounted for. Magnus would do it, but he's looking into the labs, monitoring comms and all entry points to the city. Are you bloody kidding me? They had people inside Endgame. It's been a concern for a while now. I couldn't even begin to take this in. Trent had really been working with Gina the whole time? I just couldn't believe it. Where did Trent go? If all this was true, I just wanted us to find him, bring him back, and figure out what the hell he was thinking. I might have no connection to him anymore beyond that he was someone I once cared for, but I still felt a responsibility to stop him from making some kind of horrible mistake. Though I might already be too late for that. We're not sure. We found a handwritten note with a rendezvous location on it. We were already hours too late by the time we found it, though. The note was vague, and we aren't really sure if Trent was working with Gina or if she wants something else from him. Matt doesn't seem to know anything about any of this, which makes sense given his history. A handwritten note? I suppose if they were afraid Magnus was monitoring communications, that would be the best option. But one thing that was bothering me was Trent's repeated suggestions for me to go to Cyree with him. It all hinged on Cyree's dissidents winning the conflict and making a haven for espers there, and he was supporting the Triad the whole time after all? I can't believe the Triad would stage this kind of attack on Brazil, or be involved in illegal research. Morgan, every political power on this planet is involved in that kind of research. It's been like that since the first espers showed up. Research into replicating powers or creating espers has been outlawed for centuries, but the laws only stop it from being done in the open. And the whole fairy phenomenon has opened a lot of doors. And now they have Ari scans. Mine. Hi! Hello! We have a visitor. We have a kitty boy. Hello, kitty boy. Would you like to come say hello? You cannot escape, my love. Ah ha ha. Yes. We have kitty boy here, coming to say hello because he was being needy and wanting attention. Do you have anything you would like to say? Anything you want to say for the recording? No? You just wanted love? You just wanted love? Needy boy? Alright. Perfect. Alright. Partially. Sasaki... Sorry, I got cat hair. Ew. Partially, Sasaki thinks they only got an incomplete scan of you. Your sight disruption wasn't as bad as the others, so he thinks maybe you were out of range or got out of range before the scan was complete. That's good news, at least. Handing over Morgan's psi fingerprint seems like a hell of a bad idea. Just, how can they do this? I mean, people died in those explosions. Our people, Morgan, not theirs. That shouldn't matter. Hey, we agree with you, but we've tangled with the Triad before. The big issue now is, where are Trent and this Gina lady? And what's our next move? They're trying to get out of the city, no doubt, with the stolen scans in hand. That'll be difficult for them. You said Magnus is monitoring the city exits? The Legion's been active since yesterday, but there are a few cracks in their defense, as you all know. What's the Legion? The Legion is a highly specialized and trained group of knights operating within an endgame. They are defense-focused knights with a specialty in creating powerful psi shields. Alright. Excuse me. But between them and Maggie, I doubt anyone's going to just waltz out of the city. But you said there are cracks in their defenses. That's why Magnus is also watching the exit points, and keeping a close watch on all communications in the city. So that's why they resorted to a handwritten note. I thought that too. And they found a delivery boy that was supposed to be working for us to get it in. We got a name on that bastard yet? Because I'd love to have a little chat with him. We have his name, don't worry. Still, it was careless to leave the note where we could find it. Trent's a lousy criminal. So what do we do now? Our bishops have been searching for Gina since yesterday, but everyone's wary of another attack. Plus, there's a situation on Cyree that still needs monitoring. They tried to get a psychometric reading on the note and the rendezvous point to see if there are any clues about where they're heading. What is a psychometric reading? Generally considered a subskill of postcognition, in psychometry, one reads the past of an object, a location, or very rarely a person, in order to obtain information about it. Psychometry can include general impressions and feelings, but also distinct visions about past events. Very cool. Okay. The only place open to them is the underground. The underground, the area known to many as the underground, consists of the catacombs and tunnels that lead directly to the underground Aryan ruins that wind beneath much of the planet. Though the ruins themselves are often referred to separately as the ruins or the labyrinths, the underground is a term used to sometimes refer to the ruins and catacombs collectively. I concur. It's the one place the Legion can't get to. The cracks in the defenses you mentioned, and I have no doubt the Triad is aware of that weakness. Which is why we're mobilizing the high-ranked teams and going to check it out in person. We'll enter at access points around the city and form a spiderweb of search teams to see if we can catch them before they make it out of Brazil. I sighed, rubbing my head. Yet another weird thing I have to learn about, I guess. There's a lot to learn, and it will likely take longer than a couple of months for you to learn it all. I'll say. There will be time to fill you in while we get ready. We don't actually know how many people are involved in this or what we'll find down there. You all know what it's like to work there. We'll be very, very cautious. Magnus doesn't have any reach in the underground at all, so we'll be on our own. Let's do it. Being cautious meant foregoing our normal casual uniforms and diving into the uncomfortable body armor the research division created for us. They were flexible and lightweight, but also felt like they were squeezing the life out of you. I hadn't worn mine at all and still needed help getting into it, which is how Van and I ended up in my flat with her laughing at me while I cursed my way into the stupid thing. It was probably great when you were getting shot at. It was stupid it was so hard to put on. It's not the most comfortable thing, but for missions like this, it's better to be safe than not safe. I just wish it was all in one piece, so I didn't have to figure out which part goes where. It makes a suit more capable of adjusting its strength during a fight or something like that. You'll get used to it. She pressed a small button in the low back, and the loose torso piece tightened, snugly conforming to my body shape. It's like being vacuum sealed inside. She helped me shrug into the piece that covered both arms. It sealed itself onto the suit as soon as the edges made contact with each other. And that's it. The suit connects to your neural system through the spine, so you can make slight adjustments if you want. She stepped back and gave me a once-over with a smug grin. You look great. I'm sure Ari will approve. I mean, Caleb too, but let's get real. Let's be real. You only care about Ari's opinion anyway. What? What's that supposed to mean? I mean, she isn't wrong, though. Oh, I'm sure you know what that's supposed to mean. Van, that is the last thing on my mind right now. And besides, I doubt Ari will care that much. It's not like girl, we're all psychics here. You can't hide this kind of thing from us, so don't even try. Especially after the other night. Ah! Oh, damn. Okay. Trust me, probably everyone on the floor is aware of you two blowing off some steam, as it were. What? Aware of what? Oh my god, what? Van burst out laughing, then reached for me again to help fasten the collar. Kidding! I'm kidding. Those your neighbors. I have to admit, Mar and I were definitely aware. I'm going to kill you. Though it wasn't like I hadn't been aware of the goings-on in their flat occasionally, too. Great. So are Ari leaving your flat the next morning, too, so that helped. He did not tell me that. Not that he'd think he should, I guess. Van grinned and gave me a quick hug. I'm happy for you both. Listen, Morgan, setting that aside, are you going to be okay for the mission today? I know I keep asking you that, but this hits close to home for you in a lot of ways. With New Albion, Trent. If you need to sit this one out. Analytical. I can't sit out every mission I don't like and emotional. It would be nice if they let me get away with that. I think honestly, based on all sorts of decisions at this point, probably going, I can't sit out every mission I don't like, because at this point she's wanting to see what's happened with Trent and feeling responsible for it, and yeah, we'll go with the analytical reason. I appreciate the offer, but I can't set out every mission, even if it hits close to home. I have to get used to this stuff. But this Trent guy, if he was in any way involved in that attack, then he has to be held accountable. I don't want to think anyone I know is capable of that, but the rest of you also have to face someone who is a member of Endgame and betrayed the organization. I'm sure that's also hitting close to home. Well, it's not like I personally knew that kid or anything, but I guess you're right. I feel like everyone keeps trying to baby me because of how I joined up, how it was so sudden, and that I don't have the same amount of training. But that can't last forever. I've seen firsthand how serious this job really is, and feel like it's unfair if I don't treat it with the seriousness it deserves. The rest of you don't get to run away or take a day off or sit it out either when it gets tough. I don't think I should be able to do that either. Van's face softened into a gentle smile, and I was struck by just how much of a close friend she'd become for me. Another person I'd have never met if I hadn't come here. You've come a long way, haven't you? I still have a long way to go, but I guess it's good I've at least started moving forward, right? I can't wait to see Ari's face when he gets a look at you in that. I think you're overestimating his reaction, and that isn't why I'm wearing this. My philosophy is to enjoy every single moment My philosophy is to enjoy every single moment I've given, no matter what else is going on. It may not be the point, but it's still going to be fun. Ari's face barely moves, no matter what he's feeling. Oh, really? No matter what? Damn it, Van, that's not what I'm talking about. She laughed again. You were way too much fun to tease. And I've known Ari for years. You just have to learn to pay attention to the details. Like if he breaks eye contact, means he's flustered. Jeez, you need a hobby. Vanessa and I were the last two to arrive. Finally, we were about to send out a search party. Calm down, we're here now. Are you ready? We'll be teleporting in 2 groups. I'm ready, yeah. After that stupid conversation with Van, I was feeling self-conscious in this incredibly form-fitting uniform. Ari also looked quite good in it. He studied for a moment. I couldn't help but watch him for any reaction. When he glanced away, Van subtly elbowed me in the side. I shoved her arm away and shot a glare at her. Let's go. We don't have time to wait around. Agreed. I can't make the jump with 2 other people in tow. Not in one leap, so we'll be a few minutes behind you. Understood. We gathered around him as usual, and Ari jumped. Ugh, that space looks so creepy. Ugh. Mobilizing had taken about an hour, and then getting to the underground took a few minutes, thanks to Ari and Mara. Well, to the entrance, Ari couldn't teleport us directly inside. I was fascinated as we walked through the crumbling passages, clearly man-made, or alien-made, so to speak. So old, so beautiful. I wanted to stop and admire and explore, but of course, there was none of that. Every time I tried to stop and gawk, someone hurried me along. I am so finding a way to come back here, though. They would have a fight on their hands if they tried to stop me. But that wasn't even the best part. The best part was when we stopped through a darkened doorway to the ruins. My heart nearly stopped, and my feet definitely did. I stood completely still, staring. Just staring, with my heart pounding for this first time from sheer excitement and wonder, and not because of the mission. Van laughed. Caleb told me if he didn't start walking, he'd carry me. And be careful not to use your sigh from here on out. I had to follow them, but I couldn't stop myself from peppering them with questions, because I had no idea this is what they'd meant by the underground. You telling me this runs under the entire city? How does no one know about this? I'd heard about catacombs under Delphine, but I'd never heard about anything like that under a dayside city. To be precise, these tunnels run under most of the continent. We're aware of similar facilities under Delphine and in the southern hemisphere. That extensive? There's no way something like this shouldn't be common knowledge. Access is strictly controlled, as you can imagine. Most official entrances are well guarded and kept out of public knowledge. And the unofficial entrances? Well, they're unofficial because we don't know about them, right? Brazil has numerous official access points like this one we came through. But there are a few other places people seem to enter from occasionally. We seal them up when we learn of them, but this place is massive. We can't find every crack. We're already heading deeper inside, but even as I followed the others, I couldn't help but look around me in sheer amazement. I thought the underground would be just a few rough tunnels or something. That's the impression I got from Van. And I know about ruins located under Delphine, but nothing of this scale and magnitude. It was massive, sprawling, and obviously artificial in origin. These weren't tunnels, they were corridors, and they were saying it went under the entire continent? They were clearly pre-colonization, and more than that, The inscriptions on these walls. These weren't made by the Solosons. The style of architecture is completely different. Is it possible that they were Aryan? Aryans are an ancient species that little is known about. They inhabited the planet thousands of years before the Solosons, the Dome Builders. Though evidence of their existence is present across Arcalis, very little is actually known about them beyond the high degree of advancement of their technology. They are believed to have created the Arya Sea by artificial means, and also believed to have artificially tidal-locked the planet. They are also responsible for the dangerous relics that occasionally surface. Aryan ruins dot the surface of the planet and are some of the oldest and most dangerous structures known to the Earth colonizers. Every single thought about rebellions and experiments, and Gina and Trent had completely flown from my head. The Aryans. We knew next to nothing about them beyond that they were far more advanced than any other civilization humanity had encountered. How is no one studying this place? Or have there been studies done? Are they classified? Does Endgame have access to them? I was dimly aware that Caleb looked extremely annoyed at the barrage of questions, and that Van looked equally amused, but I couldn't help it. I never once imagined I'd be able to be in a place like this. Aryan technology existed in remnants on the surface, relics of a culture we knew nothing about. Those didn't interest me much, but still, being in a place like this was incredible. I can understand your interest in this place, Morgan, but now isn't the time. I sighed, rubbing my head as I tried to focus. Right. Serious mission. Okay, I will try to reserve my questions for later. But still, I can't believe this place isn't packed with teams down here trying to study it. These walls are covered in inscriptions. There are people who've spent their lives trying to construct a theoretical proto-language from the few relics that have been safely acquired by the government. You think they aren't being studied, or that we don't have teams down here? But people learned early on to be careful about poking around in this place. Like you said, the same people that made it are responsible for the relics, and you should be aware how dangerous those things are. The technology is so advanced, we have no idea how the hell any of it works. Doesn't it make you want to poke around in it, does it? Yes, it does. That's exactly what it makes me want to do. Morgan. I know, I'm trying. It wasn't like I could just turn off the curiosity. I just had to focus on why we were here, though I didn't want to. Because I'd much rather be cataloging inscriptions or poking around, not searching for traitors and terrorists. That sick feeling in the pit of my stomach returned, but of course, that's what I was here to do. The place was dead quiet, except for our footsteps as we walked. Well, that wasn't quite right. There was a low hum like running machinery or something. I wasn't really aware of it at first, but it was just ever-present in the background. I wondered where we were heading, or how they even knew their way around. What if we got lost? Ari, who was leading the group, finally stopped when we reached a place where the paths diverged into several corridors. I think this is a good place for me to start searching, but this may take some time. Understood. We'll coordinate with the other teams, spread out a little, and continue to look on foot. I leaned over to Van as Caleb started talking into his own comlink to the other teams. What's going on? Alien circuitry runs through the place. We're not even sure how much of it is machinery rather than just static structures. Some technology down here reacts to sty. Ari's clairvoyance is strong enough he can tell where it's safe and where it isn't. He's the only one who can use his psi to search down here safely. If the rest of us try to expand a sphere to start looking for the intruders, we may activate something we don't want to. I wasn't aware relics were sensitive to psi energy. We aren't sure why that's the case. We just know that it can be dangerous as hell to activate anything related to the Aryans. Some early discovery teams were lost for that exact reasons. It's also why any exploration and research moves pretty slow. Having finished speaking with the others, he joined us. Since Ari can control the shape of his sphere, it's easier for him to look down here without doing anything dangerous. But generally, use of psi is restricted, just to be on the safe side. We'll be splitting up with Mara's teams here and heading into this direction. Morgan, stay close. Got it. The rest of us parted, leaving Ari to search on his own while we continued to do it the old-fashioned way. If they're really down here, how exactly are they expecting to find their way out of the city from here? I'm not sure I could even find my way back to the way we came. Mapping of this place started even before any official nations were established on Arcalus. Everyone had access to the first exploration logs. After that, there was a larger joint effort to get a more precise mapping of this place. Some of it was done with imaging technology from above ground. Some was put together manually by teams down here. Either way, New Albion, Endgame, CERN, Efri, we all contributed and we all shared data. So if Gina's team is working for New Albion or the Triad, they probably have a map, which means they could have already found their way out. I don't think they'd be able to make it their way out of Brazil on foot in this amount of time, but we need to find them fast. I don't think they'd have a reason to go to a lower level. Wait, there are levels? 10 of them, to be exact. More in some places, less in others. This place is over 10 stories, and it goes over under the entire continent? More or less. It's not one massive unit. It's almost like a city in of itself. There are pockets of land with nothing underneath. Some parts of it have collapsed as well. Still, that's impressive. Yes, we know. Hey, don't act like I'm being unreasonable for being surprised by all this. You people keep throwing all this stuff at me and expecting me to just not react. Come on, stop fighting. If we're making this much noise, they'll hear us and hide long before we reach them. Given the size of this place, finding them while on foot didn't seem likely. Hopefully Ari could be much more thorough with his searching. We walked for a long time, passing a few corridors in front of which Caleb would stop to listen. One of the useful things about being a rook was that his sight was internally focused, so he could enhance his senses without worrying about activating the alien technology around us. I still have doubts we would find them this way. If I was Trent, what would I do in this situation? Try to find my way out as fast as possible, or find somewhere to hide and wait out the search teams? I stopped and looked back over my shoulder, certain I just faintly heard someone call my name. Morgan? Did you hear that? I didn't hear anything. It sounded like someone called my name. I know this place is creepy, but don't start getting jumpy on us. I'm not jumpy, and I don't find this place creepy. I wanted to study places like this for a career. Not Arian specifically, but you know what I mean. Fair enough. But if anyone was nearby, I'd have heard them first. Maybe. You mimicking my skills right now? No. Then I'm certain I'd have heard it first. He had a point, but I had definitely heard something. We'd started walking again, but this time all my senses were on alert. I had not imagined that. Caleb and Vin began to quietly discuss which way to go while I listened. Below their quiet voices was the soft hum of circuitry, and I whipped my head around when I heard the voice again. A flash of images hit me square in the mind. Gina. Trent. He was restrained? What? My sphere instantly enlarged, almost against my will and certainly against all warnings. I could see a clear image of Trent kneeling over. There were people around him. More than one. Gina. Some others I didn't recognize. An injection. They were giving him an injection of some kind. Trent lifted his head, and it was as if he was looking right at me, though he couldn't be aware of me. His eyes. Help. Morgan. I snapped back into myself with a gasp to find I was doubled over with Van and Caleb's both supporting me. What the hell was that? What did you do? Didn't we tell you not to use your psi? I wasn't trying to. What was it? A premonition? I'm not sure. I don't think I was seeing a future event. More like a mix of something that already happened and something happening now. Post-cognition? Maybe some kind of psychic echo? I have no idea. What did you see? Trent, Gina. Others. I couldn't tell for sure how many. I think someone was trying to reach out to me. I think it was Trent, and I think he needs help. Reach out? Like, telepathically? They gave him an injection. I could still hear the voices in my head, a quiet, echoing whisper. I tried to filter them and figure out what they were saying, but I could only catch snatches of information. I think it was the same kind of thing they used on espers found on Cyree, the burnout victims. They may have been trying to stimulate some sort of psi response in Trent. But why? Where are they? That's what we need to know. I shook my head. Reality kept fuzzing out as images of Trent and the others bled into my mind. Morgan! The sound of my name seemed to reverberate inside my head. I flinched, and Trent's form grew crystal clear within my sphere of awareness. I honed in on him, his location popping into my mind like an automatic response. I think I know where they... Morgan, wait! And then they were gone, and I stumbled out of wormhole, right into a man I didn't know. Damn it! I staggered backwards, trying to keep out of his reach. Fortunately, he hadn't been expecting me. I tried to keep my balance as I sidestepped his startled lunge at me. That had not been intentional. The accidental teleportation thing, I was beginning to see why it was such an issue. Disoriented, and I struggled to get my bearings, but someone grabbed me from behind. They twisted my arms behind me and shoved me to my knees before I could even work out what was going on. I realized I wasn't alone on the ground. Trent was nearby too, just as I'd seen him, restrained, slightly out of it. I'm sorry, Morgan. This wasn't supposed to happen. What's going on here? Aside from the person holding me, there were several others, most of whom I didn't recognize. That worked better than I thought. She responded almost right away. I was counting on her inability to control her psi well. Looks like I was right. Sorry about this, Morgan. We didn't want things to go this way either. Somehow you don't look very sorry. Well... One of the men crouched next to me and placed a device on my temple. I winced as it had suctioned onto my skin. A psi inhibitor. I'm sure you can understand why we need to do it. I did, but if I recall correctly, they tried to do that when I was still in the infirmary back when I joined Endgame, and it didn't work on me. I wrapped my psi around the man holding me and flung him backwards as hard as I could. I jerked my body forward and away from him in the same motion. He hit the structure behind me with a very satisfying thump as I scrambled to my feet. Flinging psi at one of the others, I realized he must be a rook when he dodged my attack with astonishing speed. He swerved back around, and I didn't have time to dodge his lunge towards me. He struck me hard, sending me to the floor. Ari's training kicked in, and I avoided having the breath knocked out of me. I hit the ground and was back on my feet before the rook could pin me in place. He came at me again, but didn't expect the right hook, enhanced courtesy of a little psi mimicry. My fist connected painfully to his jaw with a solid crack that sent him staggering backwards. Not bad, but there were just too many of them. Someone tackled me from the side as a sonic report hit the ground in front of me with a heavy shudder. I couldn't get up in this time, not with a rook sitting on me and shoving my face to the ground. That's enough. I lay there for a moment, catching my breath and trying to figure out what to do next. Conceivably, a queen rank could tank on this many people and win, but I was still new to all this. It was too hard to keep track of everyone at once. And even they were aware how erratic my abilities could be, so there wasn't much intimidation factor going on. Let's get out of here before the others find us. What do we do with this one? One of the others dragged Trent to his feet and shoved him towards Gina. We don't need him anymore. What? Sorry, Trent. I don't make the rules. If you hadn't been stupid enough to believe we'd help you get your girlfriend away from Endgame and back to Cyree, maybe we wouldn't have needed to do this. Wait, that's why he was helping them? Seriously? So he was just bait to lure me here away from the others, and now they have me, they were just going to kill him. Angry, frustrated at myself for being so weak, and tired of this whole situation, I lashed out with my psi, flinging the man on my back away. Not just him, the other two people near me went down as well. Trent staggered forward as a small whip of psi energy hit him. Sorry, Trent. I got to my feet, enlarging my sphere long enough I could hopefully keep track of everyone this time. When the rook came at me again, I funneled my energy at him the same way I'd done in training. The cyburst hit him square in the chest and sent him to the ground. I winced as well as a tendril of pain started at the back of my head, but I ignored it for now. There were other problems. Gina's eyes were wide, and she trained a shaking weapon at Trent, who was sprawled on the floor, dazed. The entire room was getting brighter, cyan light flowing through hidden circuitry in the walls. My fault, no doubt. Don't come closer. I will shoot him. The machine hum was growing louder. I could feel the vibrations under my feet. I had to get Trent out of here. Fast. Gina looked around warily. What's happening? What did you do? I don't know. Seems like the alien tech down here doesn't react well with psi energy. Trent may have been too weak to trigger it. Looks like I'm not. If we don't get out of here soon, I can't say what will happen to us. You're lying. I don't lie. The light started to pulsate like an eerie heartbeat. Gina whipped her weapon around to me. I had a split second to act, to maybe get it out of her hand before she fired. I was a split second too late, but Ari wasn't. I had no idea how he found me, but he was there, shield activated. He staggered into me under the force of Gina's weapon blast, hugging me to his chest protectively. Morgan, are you all right? There was a slight edge of panic in his voice as I tried to get around him. Gina was already fleeing into one of the adjacent corridors. Ari, we have to catch her. Are you all right? I froze, startled when he raised his voice. Yes, I'm fine. They didn't hurt me. He touched my cheek and I flinched at the pain. I didn't realize I had a bruise from being shoved down earlier. Then what is this? Later, we need to catch her. It's too late. What the hell happened here? I hadn't even noticed everyone else was with Ari. They were too busy rounding up Gina's accomplices. Well, things. I told you not to activate your psi in here. Yeah, well, I was up against like 5 people. I said that over my shoulder, heading after Gina. Someone grabbed my arm and yanked me back. Where do you think you're going? Gina, let her go. But we can talk about it later. Ari, get us the hell out of here. All teams near Sector 10, evacuate now. Repeat, all teams near Sector 10, get out of here now. Teleporting this entire group alone will prove difficult. Fine, just leave these assholes here. We can't simply abandon them. Well, we don't have time for you to make 2 trips. I'll teleport half out. You clearly cannot control your ability well. You are the first one I intend to get to safety. You're not teleporting me, then coming back for everyone else. That's ridiculous. Damn it, Ari, we don't have time for this. Let her try. Trying is unacceptable. What if she fails? I cannot allow it. I'll teleport everyone at once. There are 8 of us, Ari. Your limit is... Then move closer together so it's easier. As you said, we don't have time for this. Caleb practically threw the unconscious rook on the ground in front of Ari, while Van made a much more elegant use of his telekinesis to bring the other 2 semi-conscious captives closer. I knelt next to Trent and set a reassuring hand on him. Don't worry, it'll be fine. We're about to teleport. I can't say it's unpleasant, but just try to hang in there. He groaned softly in response. As soon as Ari was in reach, I grabbed onto his sleeve, just touching Trent. Caleb and Van reached for the other 2, and as soon as we were all connected, Ari got us the hell out of there. At first it felt like other teleportation, everything twisting, stretching, slowing down, and speeding up at the same time. But something was off. It felt like it was taking longer than usual. I usually wasn't unconscious of the process. It was so instantaneous. But this time I was aware of the nothingness, of the cold, of the feeling everything rushing past in slow motion. I tried to look around, but it's not like there was anything to see. I couldn't even feel my body. Ari? Something's wrong. Something's definitely wrong. Panicking, I wasn't sure what I should do. I reached out tentatively, searching for other consciousness other than my own. Somewhere nearby, I sensed Ari. I could sense distress, anxiety, pain. I have to reach him somehow. I struggled to get to him, though I couldn't feel my body and wasn't even sure we were physically anywhere at the time. I reached him somehow. In my mind, I touched him. He touched me. I could sense him, his sigh. Heavy. It was too heavy. There were too many people. He was struggling to complete the jump and get us out of the ruins. I didn't know how to help, but if I didn't, we weren't going to make it. I could sense his cage, the one around us, the one he was trying to get us to. They were so far apart, too far for the weight he was carrying. I tried to adjust, to synchronize my side with his, to wrap it around his body, around the others, to help ease the burden on his mind and body. I didn't want to mimic his skill so much as enhance it, to twist my energy into his so his was stronger. I don't know what happened next. For one moment, Ari and I twined completely, not just our sigh, every thought, every breath, every molecule. It lasted one beautiful and terrifying moment. And then I was myself again, and everyone was stumbling out onto the street. The world was spinning and I almost went down, but I whirled around and caught Ari as he collapsed to the ground instead. My legs buckled, but I was able to lower us to the pavement in a slightly less painful way. Everyone else was scrambling around, checking each other, checking the captives and Trent. The King's Guard was there, and Ari was demanding to know what happened and why we all evacuated. I ignored them all. Ari! Morgan, what you did, that should not have been possible. I don't care about that right now. Are you okay? I misjudged the level of mental exhaustion from my previous search and the burden of carrying so many at once. I was almost unable to make it. I couldn't explain what I did, much less how it had helped. I bent over him, tears flowing even though it looked like we were both going to be all right. He reached up and gently touched my face. Why are you crying this time? Shut up. Don't you dare scare me like that. Idiot. Stupid idiot. He let out a soft laugh. I apologize for frightening you this time. I'm glad you're okay. As am I. I was worried about you. It would have been nice if either of you worried about anyone else on this mission. What the hell happened? Ari sat up with a groan, one hand to his head. Morgan somehow bolstered my side to give me enough strength to teleport everyone. Bolstered your side? You know that isn't a thing, right? It appears it is now. I glanced down at my hands thoughtfully. I had done that. I had helped get everyone to safety. Wait, Gina! We gave one of the other teams her last known locations, but who even knows? We'll have to wait until that section powers down before we can send anyone else back in there. Assuming that section still exists when it powers down. Last time some dumbass activated part of the ruins, the entire section collapsed in on itself. For now, let's get these bastards. Cat? What are you doing? Oh no! Okay, my cat just decided to try and scamper underneath my green screen stand. Hold on. Naughty boy! Naughty kitty boy! No! No! That was very naughty. You are a naughty boy. Alright. Sorry. For now, let's get these bastards back to the tower. I suspect we'll have a lot of questions for them. Agreed. Caleb got Ari to his feet, and though I was still feeling a little woozy myself, I sidled up against him, supporting the other side. The four of us carefully headed to the transport where they were loading up everyone else. Though it seemed like Gina got away, I hoped this meant we could put an end to this situation. And when we could finally resume my training again, the first thing I would do was make Ari teach me how to teleport properly. Chapter 14, The White Queen. Oh my goodness. That was quite the intense chapter. My goodness. An intense chapter, and then I realized you can see my cat sitting over here, the Chaos Bringer. Oh my goodness, it was very intense. I'm gonna have another sip of coffee before we get started with that. Alright. On to chapter 14, The White Queen. I was curled up on my sofa in my newly decorated living room, watching a news report on the latest developments regarding the Cyrie situation. Endgame had released information a little at a time in an attempt to control the narrative and make sure the story flowed the way we wanted. They were now reporting that a lab owned by the UTG was responsible for the strange espers that had surfaced on Cyree, victims of illegal research and development. The Triad, of course, denied any knowledge of this research and claimed they were launching an investigation of their own to locate the culprits. We expected that response. But it cast just enough doubt on them to weaken their position as a whole and put Endgame in a better public light, since it reaffirmed our neutral position in the matter. The attack in Brazil, which left 32 dead, dozens injured, and missing, was pinned on a little-known group with no ties to the Cyree dissidents. Endgame was claiming it had apprehended those responsible with the exception of one woman, still at large. Gina. She still hadn't been found, by us or the Triad, as far as Magnus could tell. I was angry they'd made up a story about the attack, that the real culprits would never be held accountable, but apparently destabilizing the Triad by revealing who was really behind the attack would have caused long-term problems for everyone. The short-term gains weren't worth it. Endgame didn't want the Cyree dissidents blamed for it either, thus a complete cover-up and blaming a non-existent group. At least publicly. Things were different behind the scenes. The men we captured would be held accountable outside the normal court system. There'd be an Endgame tribunal held by the council, and consequences would be meted out by them. Apparently they had the authority to do it, and this was standard practice. New Albion had asked for the men to be extradited on the grounds they were New Albion citizens. Endgame refused. I wasn't privy to that particular communication, but Magnus said he clarified that any future attacks against Endgame would be met with appropriate force, and that would be furthering investigating the allegations of illegal esper research. New Albion backed down, but I still hated it. This political chess game the important powers played with one another. I hated the peace everyone on Arclus enjoyed felt like a smoke and mirrors in the light of all this. The report turned back to the core Cyree conflict, where the Triad was now reaching out to initiate a ceasefire and begin peace talks. Life moves on, doesn't it? Tired? A little. Mostly just tired of this. The cover-up, the lies. It's an unpleasant reality that sometimes it is necessary to bend the truth for the benefit of the public. We made it clear to them we have evidence of who was behind it, and that any future attacks on our domain will not be allowed to slide. It's just, people died. The people responsible should be held accountable. That is the purpose of the tribunal. I know. If you'll recall, I'll have to appear there tomorrow. I do recall, but there's one person who will probably be never be held accountable. Gina may not even be alive. The entire section of the ruins we were in seemed to have half collapsed and half rearranged itself into a new configuration. It's anyone's guess if she made it out. Magnus has been keeping watch, and it doesn't appear as though she's contacted the Triad either. That doesn't make me feel better. It is far more satisfactory to see individuals held accountable, but there are other ways to enforce accountability. Cyree has a genuine opportunity for independence now. Perhaps if the Triad had approached the situation with more honor, they could have retained their hold on Cyree. But as it is, they stand to lose it. That will hopefully be a deterrent. Their lack of honor seems like the source of the entire situation. Perhaps, but that's also why we're here. There are many forces working to destroy peace as there are forces working to preserve it. He smoothed my hair back behind my ear. You are among those forces now yourself. Sometimes I think that fact should terrify everyone. I will admit it has occasionally terrified me. I dug an elbow playfully into his side. Hilarious. It wasn't a joke. I laughed and snuggled back into him. All frustrations aside, it was nice to be like this. Morgan, it's almost time. Are you sure you don't want to go down to see him off? I propped myself up, giving him another mock glare. That's the third time you've asked. I told you we said goodbye yesterday. I don't want to see him off. If you're trying to spare my feelings, I put my finger to his lips, stopping him. I'm not trying to spare your feelings. Trent and I had a talk yesterday and sorted everything and said goodbye. I don't need to say goodbye again. I see. I trust he's fully recovered. Fortunately, he didn't have burnout symptoms. He didn't have to use his side that much, considering how fast I responded. and being able to examine a patient so soon after receiving the serum they've been using helped Sasaki figure out how to identify its presence in the bloodstream. Trent is already back to normal. Well, almost. I had to admit that when I first learned Endgame could and would alter the memories of normal citizens, I was a little taken aback. But after Van and Ari explained it, I came to understand, somewhat. In Trent's case, he knew the truth behind the attacks and research, truth that Endgame didn't want to get out. Erasing his memory was as much for his protecting as it was to ensure their cover-up was airtight. It was strange that he had no memory of the events in the ruins, but maybe it was for the best. For that injection, Sasaki learned it was a serum with specifically programmed nanites. They would gather in the brain and function similarly to the nuclei clusters of Esper's fork system. But in order for it to work, they had to be programmed with a specific psi fingerprint. F-class waves were easier to work with since they didn't rely on nano-resonance. That was behind their attempt to get their hands on the information of Espers like Ari and myself. Fortunately, they failed, and all their research would be buried deep in the Endgame archive. Speaking of burnout, how are you feeling? Both of us were still on leave because of the mild psi fatigue from that last teleport out. My bout of it was mild, but Ari's was less so. It'd been building for a while due to all those trips to Syri and back. I'm fine. You seem to be recovering well also. I think I'm back to normal, which is a much faster recovery than last time. I'm glad to hear it. I fear with the peace talks on the horizon, we won't have much time to relax in the near future. I notice our training regime is starting up tomorrow. It'd be wise to get the teleportation under control. I know firsthand how problematic it can be to not be able to control it. Right, such as accidentally teleporting into someone's shower? Ari's face colored and he looked away. Even if I am prone to such things with the amount of training I have, you can't imagine how far you have to go. I don't mind it too much. Though it was a little off-putting, you're the only one who got something interesting to look at. I believe you have looked at everything there is to look at several times at this point. I don't know. I haven't quite memorized the pattern of freckles on the back of your shoulders yet. I'm still puzzled why you're so fascinated by something as innocuous as patches of concentrated melanin on my back. In any case, once I've gotten the hang of it, I'll have to teleport into your shower as revenge at least once. I would not object to the prospect. I couldn't help but smile. His flirting was still a little awkward, but it was also endearing. His attempts to tease me always left me completely captivated by him, even more than I already was. I leaned up and kissed him softly. He let out a pleased murmur and pulled me closer. A pleasant warmth began to spread through me, and when we separated moments later, Ari smiled down at me. You are beautiful. I never thought I would feel something like this, but I hope you realize how much I care for you. I do, but I wouldn't mind if you showed me. I'm not confident in my ability to show you the depths of how I feel. Then shall I show you how I feel instead? I leaned up and pressed another kiss to his mouth. His tongue flicked briefly against my lips, then touched mine, gently at first, then more aggressively as he deepened the kiss. I wound my arms around him, pulling myself closer to him as one of my knees slid over his thigh. Ari's hand found its way to my hip before he tugged me onto his lap. My face dug into the sofa on either side of him as I captured his face, kissing him intently, and everything else was forgotten for a while. Later, we were lying side by side in the bedroom, and I was admiring the few sparse freckles on his chest. I propped myself on my elbow and looked down at him, tracing a finger down his cheek. He looked up at me curiously. Ari? Yes? I never thought I'd say this to anyone, but I'm glad you kidnapped me that day. He let out a long sigh and gave me a pained look that softened into an amused smile. Though I question your choice of wording, I have to admit, so am I. I fell asleep in his arms, and that was the first night I didn't wake up to find him reading a few feet away. I truly believed I was exactly where I was meant to be. CUA5, CUH1, get over here and get ready to move out. Kingsguard, tell your damn boss he better monitor things and get us warning the moment the target moves. Yeah, we know that much. Thank you very much. It was pretty much business as usual. Are you ready? I believe this is the longest jump you'll have made to date. I got it under control. Don't worry. You always say that, and yet you always give me reasons to do exactly that. What's that supposed to mean? Ari took my hands and pulled me to him, ignoring the commotion around us as 4 teams, including ours, got ready to mobilize. It means you are reckless, and it is worrisome. I learned from the best. I did not teach you that. Okay, you 2 lovebirds, we're waiting on you. Ari released my hands and gave her a disparaging look. Vanessa, please, we've been waiting on everyone else for the last 10 minutes. You going to be okay with teleporting 3 teams on your own? It'll be fine. I've done it before. Well, almost. It was 2.5 last time. I'll be fine. You keep saying that, and sometimes it's not true. I've got this. Stop worrying. Then stop giving us reasons to worry. Ari gave me a knowing look. I just glared at both of them. You're worse than my mom. Both of you. I've met your mom, so I know that's not true. We're ready to go. Get in position. I rolled my eyes and grabbed Ari, pulling him close enough for a quick kiss on the cheek, just to annoy the others before I took up position with my teams. Everyone, make sure you're within the specified area. Every part of you. Birdie, you too. I'd really hate to leave your foot behind because you weren't paying attention. CUD4 is ready when you are. Good. Make sure you pay attention this time. I want to see if you can pinpoint the location of my second cage before you reach it. She gave me a teasing smirk. Just make sure you don't overshoot your second cage by 15 meters and almost launch us off a cliff this time. That was one time. Let's go. I shut my eyes, pictured the exact spot I needed to go, and jumped. Oh my goodness! Oh! And we reached the end of the game. Oh my gosh. Aw. I'm sad this is over. Aw. My goodness, that was so much fun. Aw. Okay, thank you so much for going and watching and staying tuned for this playthrough of Gilded Shadows. Oh my gosh. What an engrossing world. I love the lore of this, and honestly, if you decide to go and play this yourself, I really, really recommend it. Please let me know, you know, in the chat or the comments what you think of it. And honestly, this has been so great to go and get to play through. And yeah, oh my goodness, this has been so much fun. My goodness, there's been so many people who put so much hard work and effort into this game, and it's really, I feel like it's really worth it and really come through, and always got to stay for the credits. Look at all these people who put in effort and care into this game. Wonderful. Also, if you have any suggestions as towards what game I should play next week, please let me know. I have a few in mind that I'll be playing towards what to play. Oh, aw, man, this is wonderful. Is there anything else? There we go, and we're back at the title screen. Thank you so much for tuning in this week, and I will see you guys all next week, and have a great rest of your day. Thank you.